Well, Harmy, a lot of people have been talking about the fact that Ollie Pope has never captained in a first-class game. They tend to forget that Ben Stokes had never captained England until he was asked to do so, filling in for Joe Root in that one-off test in 2020. His captaincy style is going to be the subject of much scrutiny and discussion. Um, do you think it'll be an issue? It was interesting. Nasser Hussain said that he's going to have to bluff it a bit. Indicating that he might not necessarily have the right, I don't know, what character, personality? What do you think he meant?
Yeah, I don't know. I know exactly what he meant. Nasser bluffed it quite a bit, to be honest, when he was captain of England. Keep shouting at me well, actually, very, very close. He used to stand at me off and shout at me. So he was bluffing it a little bit now. When he's joking, Nasser. I love having a go at Nasser. It's brilliant. But I get what he's saying. He's going to have to put his persona, his personality on it. He might have to. Michael Vaughan was the best bluffer going. He hid behind the glasses. He had the rimmed cap, the rimmed hat on. I've heard Michael say many times, inside, I've got no idea what's going to happen next, but I'm not going to tell my bowlers that. And he had them glasses that made sure that nobody's seen his eyes. So I think as a captain, Mass is right, as he always is. You have to have some bluff. You have to gamble. Be a very, very good gambler. You've got to tell lies sometimes because you've got to try and make your bowler, your batter, or whoever feel 10 foot tall when they're not. Not going as well as you would like them to, or they would like themselves to. So you've got to be a bit of a psychologist as well. So I think Ollie will be fine. When it comes to captaincy, I mean, how many times did Joe Root captain Yorkshire? How many times did Michael Vaughan captain Yorkshire? Nasser Hussain captain, Essex, Michael Atherton, very, very young captain of England. I know he probably captained the universities quite a bit, but there wouldn't have been very much at Lancashire. So I think when you look at it, you captain England because normally you're one of the best players. I think Ollie's done a really good job as vice captain. I think he'll be fine because I think he's got a good team, and it's a nice time for him to get the experience.
Harmy, I remember a time when whoever you were in the team, particularly in county cricket, if you were injured, almost particularly if you were a big player, then you were expected to stay away. Just stay out of the way. And you would actually be discouraged from attending. And I think that it's not just Ben Stokes and England. I think that kind of culture is changing now, and there is a sort of feeling that just don't tread on the fit players' toes. But that has changed, hasn't it? I mean, I'm sure that you remember that in the early days of your career. If somebody was injured, they were expected just to go away and get fit and get treated and come back when you're fit enough to play.
Yeah, you went back to your county. I mean, the county system, it gets so much stick and it gets so much knockers, and nobody really sort of, from your England point of view, the treat with so much disregard, and then all of a sudden, when you got injured, it was like, right, you go back there. The physio who is not as who hasn't got as much on his plate, he's got more on his plate than what the international physio has. And then you go back and try and rebuild not your career, but get yourself fit by playing county cricket. And then England come calling again, take you back, and completely disregard the first class system again. So it used to be like that. It's not like that now. I think where you're going with it is, does Ben Stokes have a big personality in the dressing room? Of course he does. I mean, there's no question that Ben needs to be in that dressing room and part of that, management group, that decision-making group. He probably will get better treatment with England because there's more physios there. I mean, there's better people there from the rest of the sort of rehab point of view, rather than going back to Durham, where Durham are probably going to be on the road. So the the best physio, Susan, won't be there. So I think, the international player now, the resources that the international group have got, I think the player, whoever's injured, must stay with the group to make sure that he's got his rehab ready. Because, I mean, you don't do warm-up games. You don't do rehab games. I mean, as soon as Ben Stokes is fit, he ain't playing for Durham. I mean, he's going straight back into that test match team when he's ready. So I think each individual's different, but somebody like Ben Stokes, you'd probably still want him around in the dressing room. Whether that's a hindrance, I don't think it will be. It could be some interesting conversations while England are on the field. If things are going a bit awry, I know we're going to talk to Machado in a bit about Sri Lanka and their depth of batting, who I think are probably the opposite to the West Indies, where their strength is batting and not bowling. If they start building partnerships, if Matthews becomes very difficult to get out because he can do that to teams, then all of a sudden you've got Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes, who normally would be one on the field, one off the field, giving each other hand signals, and they're now trying to get them both to give the hand signals to Ollie Pope. So there might be a few bits of paper flying about, but no, I would imagine Ben will let Ollie Pope get on and deliver, because I think it's not a bad thing, as much as I will never ever want to go into a test match without our leader. But I'd rather it come against Sri Lanka than come against India or Australia, when, the pressure on that would be astronomical. It'd be massive. It would be huge if we lost Ben for one of them games, and Ollie had to do it for the first time. So I don't think this is a bad thing for England going forward.
Depends what kind of vice captain you are, doesn't it? If you're a vice captain with a big ego and captaincy ambitions of your own, then you might not want the injured captain around. But I don't think that Ollie Pope is either of those. I don't think he's got a big ego, and I don't think he even necessarily had captaincy.
No, he hasn't. He's a brilliant player. He's as good a bit like Joe Root, as good a player as they are. And I'm not even putting him in Joe's category when it comes to the player point of view. But the person point of view, I am, because Ollie's a lovely lad. He will listen to people. Let's see if he's firm. Joe's one of the Joe potentially could go past Sachin Tendulkar in the history of the game. And Joe's a better person than he is a batter, and that tells you everything about the person of Joe Root. And I think Ollie's the same. A really nice character, well respected in the dressing room. Let's see if he's got a little bit of backbone, because he's going to have to tell some bowlers to pitch it up, bowl it short, really have a go at somebody if they're not pulling their. They do pull their weight, but if things aren't going right, and pull them up like Ben does. So it'll be a test, but let's see where it goes. I'm sure he will have the strong word if he needs to have it.
Okay, Moeen Ali was another player, another long-time vice captain with a similar personality. He was asked a couple of days ago how he thought Ollie Pope would go as captain.
Once you lose a player like Stokes, you're not losing just a batsman, you're losing obviously the captain, and you're losing another bowler. The whole balance of the team is now messed up a bit, actually. And who to bring in, how to balance the side out, it's going to be hard work, but I'm sure they've already decided or come up with a plan. But when you lose someone like Stokes, not just as an all-rounder, but just the caliber of Stokes as a person as well, to have in the change room, etc. It's difficult. And it's very difficult to replace somebody like Stokes in the side. Any all-rounder really is hard to balance the side out. With Popey taking over, I think he'll be fine. I think he's been around for years. He's been around England, and he's come. Obviously, he's been at the start of this whole baseball era, and he knows what he wants, and he's quite clear. So yeah, I don't think much will change. I think he'll just carry on and take that flag sort of forward.
That's Moeen Ali. Full confidence in Ollie Pope stepping up to the captaincy. All right, couple of other points then, Harmy. Dan Lawrence is going to still. You mentioned that he might, when Stokes was injured, drop back into the middle order, but he is going to carry on as an opener, or start as an opener. The England management were very quick to announce that they wouldn't be adding to the squad, so no replacement, no Sam Curran. So does that mean that the extra batsman plays, Jordan Cox debut at 6, or the extra bowler, Matt Potts or Ollie Stone?
It's going to be so intriguing, that team, when it comes out at 10:30, because can you go in with 4 bowlers? 2 of them, your quick bowlers in Atkinson, who's in great form, but then there's a little bit of a hit around at 100. Mark Wood, who hasn't bowled since, really properly since the West Indies in a match. You've got a young spinner. The one thing that they've probably have in their favour, they're going to Old Trafford where the ball bounces a little bit, and it probably will turn as the test match goes on. Dan Lawrence gives them that. If there's a wicket where Dan Lawrence is useful from a bowling point of view, would probably be Old Trafford in the Oval. But I think Old Trafford. So me personally, I'd always play the batter. I'd play 6 batters. I pick Jordan Cox and say my bowlers are the ones And England have played with 4 bowlers for the majority of the time under Ben Stokes because of his knee. I would go in that way. I think I would say the old-fashioned mentality, the non-Ben Stokes era mentality, would possibly play the bowler, or possibly not play Wood or not play Atkinson, and possibly play Potts, and say, right, we are going to have 2 holding bowlers, 1 quick bowler, and Potts gives us a little bit more of the batting, and go sort of horses, hedging our bets a little bit. This group doesn't play that mentality. They don't play that way. England play fast bowlers. They play their best spinner, even if he's 18, 19-year-old. We're going to pick our 6 best batters. And I think that, for me, would be the way I would go. And I think that's the way England would go. So Lawrence would go up the top. Cox would come in at number 6. And then England, I think England, I would go with Atkinson, Wood, Wokes, Bashir. And you've also got a little bit of Lawrence and a little bit of Root if need be. That should be enough to beat Sri Lanka in England. And that, for me, would be my team.
Just a shame the 2 part-time bowlers are both off spinners there. I mean, gone are the days when you get a top order batsman who could bowl you half a dozen overs of medium pace. Yeah,
Marcus Trescothick and Mark Butcher both opened the bowling for England. I don't think they really enjoyed opening the bowling for England because of the other countries they had to do that in. One in Sri Lanka, one in Pakistan. Butch, his body's still creaking now, and every time we speak to him. So, yeah, but you talk about the 2 off spinners. They're very, very different in Joe Root and Dan Lawrence. They're great to watch. I love watching Joe bowl because, he tries everything and he gets through his overs quickly. And you cannot just joy with the sight of Dan Lawrence's action. It's fantastic. We watched him in India, didn't we? And he was, in practice, and we were sitting there and we were like dizzy watching him bowl. So, yeah. 2 different types of off spinners, but 2 off spinners nevertheless, which I think could have a little part to play because England's probably will only go with 4-man attack.
One of the great underrated pleasures watching Dan Lawrence bowls, like a ballerina doing a pirouette. Brilliant, love it. And he's been doing a lot of bowling. I think by design for Surrey, hasn't he, this year? So, yeah.
I think that was his way to the team. He says, isn't it? He said that, didn't he? He said, if I want to be an England player, I've got to work at everything in my game, and that was the fielding side as well. But the bowling side, when he went to Surrey, was something. If I want to get in the Test team, I can use the skills of my bowling as well as my batting. He was probably thinking, I'm going to come in the team at number 6, number 7, possibly. I didn't think he envisaged him going in at opening the batting, but I think if you ask Dan Lawrence, and there's a lot of people having a go at him, saying his technique's not good enough to go at the top of the order, but it's not about technique. When you go at the top of the order now, it's the mentality. Can you force yourself on the bowler, put him in a position where you want him to bowl rather than him bowl to you? And if you can do that, you've got a more chance of surviving. You look at Ben Duckett. He don't leave a ball. You can say what you want about his technique. He don't leave a ball. 2% of balls left. He looks to score all the time. So does Zach Crawley. And I'm sure Dan Lawrence will do a good job at the top, playing his own way. And hopefully he's told to play his own way, which would be very, very forceful, attacking, try and put the bowlers under pressure. So I wish him all the best. I really do hope he succeeds.
And a reminder, we'll bring you updates of the first test between England and Sri Lanka on talkSPORT, with also a daily following on podcast reacting to each day's action. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison. And a reminder, you can now watch us on YouTube as well. Just head over to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and subscribe if you haven't already done that. I'm delighted to say that we're joined once again by Mark Machado, co-host of the Murali Pod, to talk about the upcoming Sri Lanka Test series. Mark, it didn't start well, did it? That pretty comprehensive 7-wicket defeat to the England Lions in Worcester, the only warm-up game. There were some good things from the England Lions players, but I don't know. I mean, it was a first-class game, but do you think Sri Lanka were using it as more of a warm-up, or will that hurt?
I'm gonna be optimistic and say they were using that as a warm-up. I wasn't able to make it to the game because I was in Ireland watching the women, but from what I heard, the players came in looking very undercooked and raw. I think, a few of the squad had been here for about 2 weeks beforehand, but most of that team had turned up about 4 or 5 days before it. They've not a huge amount of of them have played on kind of green English pitches. So I'm hoping that they kind of could take away a lot more from it than their egos would have been bruised, if that kind of makes some sort of sense.
Yeah, there was a few highlights for Sri Lanka. Prabha Jayasuriya took 5 wickets. Is it going to be, Mark? Is it going to be reliant heavily from Sri Lanka's point of view on spin, because it just seems as though that's their strength. I know the wicket at Worcester might have had a little bit of green grass on it, probably because it's been underwater for the last 4.5 months. But I can't see Old Trafford. Lords might have a little bit with the slope, but I'm sure the spinners can use the slope to their advantage. And when we get to the Oval, if we've had 3 weeks of good weather, the likelihood is it will turn, because the Oval does turn. So is it going to be Sri Lanka's advantage to have a lot of spinners in their attack?
So I'm going to answer this question with a kind of slightly longer lens, which is that basically Sri Lanka aren't playing many test matches outside of Asia anymore. I think, that they played once. They went to New Zealand last year, and then I think before that they went to South Africa the year before. So it's kind of one series kind of every year or so. Because of that, this team is just totally built to play in Asian conditions. And I think we're an all right test side in Asia. I just can't see. I've got the same worries as you, Harvey, where I'm just worried about how we're going to get these 20 wickets, particularly early on. I mean, Sri Lankan spinners obviously have a great time at the Oval historically, and Prabha Jayasuriya is an incredible bowler, but we've kind of got our bowlers quite undercooked, so I'm a bit nervous about that. I think if we are going to get positive results, then I think we're going to have to do it in a uniquely Sri Lankan way and find a way around to be innovative and hope one of our fast bowlers kind of can find a bit of form very, very quickly and do something quite special. Maybe, I can't imagine that, too many of the English batters have played against Vishwa and Asita Fernando too much. So maybe just the fact that they're new bowlers, they're pretty wily characters as well. They might be able to get something out of it and do something. But I mean, going into it, that's my worry is where those 20 wickets coming from.
Okay, well, let's turn our attention to the batting then. I mean, unlike the West Indies, there's a serious amount of experience in that Sri Lankan top and middle order. Dimuth Karunaratne, Kushal Mendes, Dinesh Chandimal, Angelo Matthews, Dhananjaya de Silva. They've all got 50 or more Test caps, and they've just pulled off a stunning coup by appointing Ian Bell as their batting consultant for the series. So there's 2 ways to take 20 wickets. You can get your bowlers to do the job, or you can just put 600 on the board and let scoreboard pressure do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way that they might have to go about things. I'm just slightly worried because obviously, there is a lot of experience. I think Dimuth's the highest. He's got more runs in the last 5 years than any other opener. He's got some incredible stats backing him. And, Sri Lanka and Sri Lanka fans, including myself, we talk him up as one of the best batters kind of in Test cricket at the moment. And I think this is a real opportunity for him to come out and kind of lay that marker down and be somebody that doesn't just score runs at home, but scores runs around the globe. I mean, Angelo and Chandimal both have Test centuries in England as it stands. So I think if these guys can find a bit of form, if they can show us that Worcester match was just a bad game at the office kind of thing, then I think it could be competitive. But there's a couple of other players kind of coming through as well, who with the bat might be quite interesting to watch with Madushka, Kamindu Mendes, and Pathum Nissanka, who they brought in back into the red ball team, basically because his white ball form has been so electric that they just felt that they couldn't come and leave him at home.
They're going to have to possibly think in a white ball way as well. I know no Ben Stokes, but are they ready to hang on to their hats? Because you say they're going to be spin from both ends and as many ends as they can get spin at, because that's Sri Lanka's strength. But England ain't going to be blocking them. They're going to be running at them. They're going to be coming at them. And when the man has mentioned about the batters, England are going to fire. Come with pace as well. Did you see Wood bowl at the end at Edgbaston? Atkinson, I think he got ICC Player of the Month bowling at 90 mile an hour. this is going to be a different England test to probably one of the experienced players, the likes of Chandimal and Matthews, has probably faced England before.
Yeah, and I'm hoping Sri Lanka should relish this as well, right? Obviously, we don't have Baz McCullum as our manager. We've got Sanajar Surya, the kind of original purveyor of big hitting and not sticking about at the crease for too long. Hopefully, the kind of spirit of Sanath and the spirit of '96 kind of filters through the team, because I think actually the way England play can let a team like Sri Lanka into it if they can kind of embrace it. The big worry for me, as I said already, is the wickets, and also that pitch early on at Old Trafford. If I was going to be super cynical about this, and if you ask me what is the way I think Sri Lanka can come away from this Test series with a positive result over the 3 matches, what I would ask for is a little bit of rain, or actually quite a bit of rain, in kind of the middle days at Old Trafford. Ideally, we get a little bit of time to bat, a little bit of time to bowl, but there ends up being no result. And then you come down to London when the pitches have had a little bit more chance to dry out. Hopefully, it's dry for the next kind of couple of weeks, and that's where we can bring up Pramith into it. Our batters have had a bit more experience on English surfaces, a bit more used to the way the ball might move about. And I think if we can kind of stay in this series when it gets to the Oval, then I think absolutely anything can happen. We're not going to be able to... I can't see Sri Lanka landing knockout blows early on in this series. I think they've got to try and take it long and kind of keep punching and keep staying in the fight. And then... especially, I think with Ben Stokes not there, we're losing their talisman. I think that they can kind of get into the English team a little bit, and I think that's how they could come away with a positive series for themselves.
Finally, from me, Mark, 2 questions in one. I'd like a score prediction for the Test series, please. And once you've considered that, can you tell us what happened to the Sri Lankan ladies? I mean, they win the Asia Cup and then lose a series to Ireland. That's an eyebrow raiser.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you my Test series prediction. I'm going to go 1-1. I'm doing a rain dance morning and night at the moment. So
you're on the right place.
yeah. So let's see what happens. And then with the women, oh dear, I think 2 things happened. Again, I don't think they were overly used to the kind of Irish/British conditions that they face, and also I think they've gotten slightly overconfident as well. I think it will be a bit of a I'm going to take something away from the Irish girls. They've obviously done incredibly well to win the series, but that first and second ODI, I think the Sri Lankan girls really threw that away. They were in really good positions to win both those matches, and in key moments of the games, they just started to have little collapses. I think they'll take a lot from that, or they should learn a lot from that going forward, though, and into the World Cup, which is obviously the big thing that they're aiming towards at the moment for this year.
And finally, from me, Mark, it's a bit like Manners' score prediction. For Sri Lanka to win the series or have the positive result that you talked about, who's the person that Sri Lanka are going to have to stand up? Who at the end of September is going to be the man that gets back on the plane, getting Sri Lanka that positive result?
Can I hedge my bets and give you 2? It's going to have to be Vishwa or Asitha Fernando. One of the fast bowlers is going to have the series of his life. Yeah. For Sri Lanka to get a series win. If that happens, then I'll be a happy man.
And finally, for me, I'm obsessed with Angelo Matthews. There you go. I've admitted it. I've confessed. I'm an Angelo Matthews obsessive. He's 37 years old now. Is he still an all-rounder? And how do Sri Lankan aficionados regard him? Is he? I mean, he's had some unbelievable performances in his time. Purple patches where no team in the world could get him out, and then he'd run in and take 4 for. Where is he now in his career?
Oh, it's not just you. I think there's 20 million other Sri Lankans who are obsessed by him as well. And he's the most divisive character on the island as well. Some people absolutely love him, and some people just want to see him as far away from the team as possible. I don't think we're going to see him play much white ball cricket for the national side. I think he's probably in this Test team for as long as he wants to be, just because of his batting. I think, sadly, he's one of those players who just had a lot. At that moment when you think he's going to go on and become one of the best players in the world, he just got a lot of hamstring injuries, and it kind of curtailed his development. And because of that, I don't think you'll see him bowl too many overs. in the next kind of during this Test series. You might see him bowl spells of kind of 2 or 3 just to kind of mix it up a little bit, but his bowling now is really quite something, because he's getting good line of length, but it's at no pace whatsoever. But quite often, particularly white ball cricket, it does yield results, because I think it lulls batters into a false sense of security, and next thing you know, they kind of mishit a ball and get caught in the slips or something like that. So you might see it if they need to kind of mix things up a little bit. But he's in this team mainly as a batter and also as a kind of on-field leader as well, I'll say.
Mark Machado, co-host of the excellent Murali Pod. Thank you so much for your time, and enjoy the series. We'll catch up with you, see how that 1-1 prediction goes.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. And if you've missed any of the show and you want to catch up, you know what to do. Download the podcast from the Following On feed, available as always via the free talkSPORT app or wherever you get your podcasts. And I'm delighted to say, as promised at the top of the show, we're joined live now by Glamorgan head coach Grant Bradburn, after his team clinched their place in the final of the Metrobank One Day Cup with a 39-run win, hard-fought win as well, by the looks of it, over Warwickshire in Cardiff. Grant, congratulations. It's been a fascinating season, your first full season in English county cricket. But this is, I don't know, early reward and a well-justified one. Congratulations.
No, thank you very much, Neil. It's and a pleasure to be on your show, you guys. And thanks for the opportunity. It's really, really proud of the boys, the whole group, and really pleased for the club to have a final to look forward to.
How nervous were the group in that sort of middle of the second innings? And you put obviously a score on the board. Michael Burgess was going well, and I mean he was going well, wasn't he? And I was, was it going to? Were you thinking it wasn't? Was it going to be your day? Because in the modern day, 50 over, 247. I don't know what the pitch was like. 247 was it a par score, below par score? Did you have to work so hard second innings?
Yeah, as Neil suggested, it was a bit of a dogfight. It was kind of old school, I think, Steve. In terms of the contest yesterday, it's not ideally the brand of cricket that we're wanting to play. We wanted to play dynamically, attractive brand of modern one-day cricket. But sometimes you've got to adapt to the surfaces. And yesterday, in particular, really, really pleased with the players and the way they accepted and adjusted to what they were finding in the middle. And it's kind of something that we have spoken a lot about. And I think there's been a big advancement for the group in terms of just thinking solutions rather than reacting to anything that happens in the middle, whether it be poor umpiring or perceived bad decisions or tough wicket or someone gets out. We've been really, really hot on trying to keep that communication strong and positive and solution based in the dressing room. So the boys sort of knew. I think it was an advantage playing on it against Yorkshire previously, and we kind of knew that if we could get somewhere north of 250, ideally we want to be scoring 320, 330, but we just were realistic yesterday, and we thought, well, anything north of 250, we're in the game. And our seamers throughout the comp have done a fabulous job. Kieran Carlson has led the team dynamically. We're really wanting to take wickets with some aggressive field placings, and we knew that our fielding was a real trump card of ours. So at the halfway stage, we were you're never confident with only 250 on the board. We knew we had to bowl well, but we certainly did. And really proud of especially that second half.
Grant, I love the fact that cricket is played on an organic surface and it has a large human element about it. Sometimes you can't score 350 every time. It was a tough pitch. And sometimes, we forget how long 50 overs is, actually. We're so ingrained in the T20 culture. We forget how much work there is actually just to bat 50 overs these days. But Dan Douthwaite was brilliant at the end there. I mean, you put that hard work in. You were 44 for 4, 90 for 5. So to end up with 247 was was a great effort. Where do you rate the stature of the tournament, the Metrobank One Day Cup? I mean, it's sort of forgotten child of the English game, isn't it? But it's produced some cracking cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think by default, it's enabled all teams really to delve into their wider squad and give perhaps some younger players some valued opportunities, because it's tough, for the young players. They might not see too much game time throughout the season, but the Metrobank 50 certainly allows that. And look, we're very realistic. We haven't had as many players in the 100 as some other teams maybe, but it takes nothing away from the way the team have played and really gelled and adapted to an aggressive mindset. And I really think that's it. The mindset has been to take wickets, and we've had a seam attack especially who have really starred throughout this tournament. So look, really, I guess I'm showing my age in terms of the value of 50 over cricket. I love it. I think I would hate to see it go, because I think as showed yesterday, there was a good crowd in at Sophia. The boys felt like it was full in the way that they were very vocal, but they were clearly a very knowledgeable crowd too, in the way they were applauding the battle throughout from both sides. And I think the crowd yesterday were treated to a great spectacle. So look, I think it definitely has its place, and it's I think I would certainly, as a coach, hate to see the 50 over format diminish. And it's certainly, from a cricketing point of view, I think, those middle overs, I think, are so critical in terms of providing that intrigue in terms of what might happen. And look, I think that's the real winning of 50 over cricket now, because modern day cricket, most good teams are going to get 50, 60, sometimes more off the power play. Good teams now, if you go into the last 10 with wickets in hand, you're going to get close to 100. So it's the middle overs that is the real winning and losing of the game. So there's a lot of intrigue there for spectators, especially, I think, and a lot of opportunity for players to have to adapt to different situations and surfaces. So I think that's a good thing for the development of players.
Right, do you coaches talk to each other? I'm sure you've got friends in the coaching world in English cricket about what the Metrobank 50 has become, but we're not a big fan. Me and Manners aren't a big fan of the 16.4 over competition that goes alongside it. But we look at, from a coaching point of view, do you get frustrated when players don't get released? I know Glamorgan haven't had as many players in the 100 as, say, somewhere like Surrey or Yorkshire, but you lose a couple of players. They're key players for you going forward. Or do you look at it and go, well, we can blood this 18, 19-year-old that we're not sure on, give him his head? And is that sort of, does that balance it out? Or do you get frustrated that if a player's not playing in the 100, he's not released back to the county to play in this competition? It becomes a bit farcical, doesn't it? Really, somebody carrying drinks when they could be playing, like you say, a mode of the game, or 50 over competition, which is I think it's an integral part of an education of a young player going forward.
Yeah, totally agree, Steve. I think that's we look at it more as an exciting opportunity, and I think as coaches, we all understand the value of all formats of the game, and this has been a really nice opportunity, I think, to bring in some new faces, some fresh faces, and also rest some legs, I guess, and just bring some freshness into each of the environments and the different formats that we play throughout a season. So I'm a newbie in terms of coaching in the county game, and wow, it's demanding. It's far more demanding than international cricket, because your resources are limited, and there's a necessity to develop players, not just select them in and out. So that's been a really nice opportunity, and to see deserving young players come through our twos. And for us, we demand that they impact games before they earn the badge, and we've had a number of players who have done that early in the season but weren't getting opportunities. So the Metrobank 50 has provided a really nice opportunity, to bring some young guys in and give them a taste. So look, I personally think all formats have their place, and you kind of saw a different crowd there yesterday. It was more of I'd say mature cricketing folk that were there, but it was still a very, very entertaining day's cricket, and to see everyone out on the ground at halftime, for example, playing a little bit of backyard cricket, having a look at the surface, poking around and just sort of feeling part of the occasion. That's really cool, and I think Sophia Gardens do it so well. It's a real event there, whether it be the 100 or T20 or yesterday. It was they're all kind of different, and they present to a different market, and I think that's got to be good for our game.
Grant, I want to dig a little bit deeper about your comment there about international cricket. I mean, it's been a while, with respect, since you played your international cricket for New Zealand, so I won't ask you whether you missed that. But I mean, your experience with Pakistan and Scotland is still quite fresh, and people would wonder whether stepping into a county role on a long-term contract, as you have with Glamorgan, might be seen as a step down. But I mean, I guess the sense of satisfaction and reward is there every day in county cricket, whereas international cricket, it's a bit stop-start and I dare say a bit more political. Are you really enjoying the experience as much as you say? And do you think you'll miss international cricket? Is that something you aspire to get back into?
Not at this stage. Look, I'm really, really loving the opportunity to work, firstly, with Glamorgan, where I saw it as a wonderful opportunity to potentially take a team that was mid-table Division 2 and to try and shake things up and guide Glamorgan as a whole, as a club, help do my bit to guide it in a new direction of a new era of success. So that's that was kind of a wonderful prospect of a project when I applied for the role. And look, I'm very, very grateful for having some experience at international coaching level, together with Mickey Arthur, who I'm very close with. We have a special place in our heart for Pakistan and the cricket there. And it was a wonderful 5 years that I was involved with the players there. But this is a completely different opportunity. It's a nice opportunity where I can involve my family as well. You get to work with players on a day-to-day basis. You really get to shape the dressing room and help the players shape that culture in a positive direction. It's so different in that way. And Cardiff is a wonderful city, and a place to live. So really, really enjoying the opportunity. Everyone sort of talked about the county grind. I don't look at it that way. I love the fact that there's so much cricket jammed in, because it just, as we said before, it just provides opportunities to refresh players and bring deserving players in onto the stage. And in Pakistan, for example, 240 million people, cricket has no competitor. So selecting is a critical part of that role. But of course, all the icons of the game are chief selectors. So you've got that to battle with as well. And look, we can't just select players in and out in our environment here. It's our resources are limited. But that's I look at that as a wonderful challenge. We've actually got to develop players, and I'm really pleased to say that. I mean, I did do my homework before I accepted the role, but I've walked in here to a group of players who are really hungry to get better, and I think it's real credit to some of the experienced players. For example, Chris Cook, Colin Ingram, Sam Northeast. Those guys are just wanting to get better every day, and that's a real pleasure to work with them, and that of course feeds off on the culture that we're wanting to develop in the young players too. So yeah, it's no, it's a wonderful opportunity. I'm genuinely, really, really loving it.
It's a great city, Grant. It's a great place to play cricket, man. As I love going to Cardiff. I mean, it's one of my daughter's godfather, Dean Kosker, who obviously Dean Kosker, Darren Thomas from years gone by. I went on air tours with them, very close to them, and obviously love going down to Cardiff. A bit like Durham, geographically challenged. I mean, you talk about the county grind, but it's not the easiest place to get to. Cardiff for opposition teams, but it's also for the home side. I mean, everywhere's a good bus journey, and if you've got a good group, you've got a good team spirit. I mean, that bus, it does help galvanise the group. But I want to take you back, Grant, just finally from me. We had Ajit Singh Dale last week on the show. He talked the Gloucester element of the Gloucester Glamorgan 4-day game that finished in that unbelievably way at the end. What was your overriding emotions? Absolute carnage was going in the last over.
Yeah, it was. We because it was at Cheltenham there, the dressing room and area is so small. We kind of all gravitated out onto the ground at the end of the game, and I think everyone was kind of stunned. And what's just happened, and the fact that it was so close. Sam in particular batted so well, to get us to the line. We couldn't get over the line, and all of a sudden it was like, it was like that empty feeling, I think, from both teams. But pretty quickly, I think everyone sort of realised that, wow, what a privilege to be part of an occasion and a game like that. And I think both sides will probably say that, look, both deserve to win it, and to be involved in a tie was pretty special. At a wonderful ground as well. So, from our point of view, I mean, gutting. We're all trying to chase down Sussex. That's not going to be an easy task over the next 5 games. But we don't want to be in Division 2. We're looking to promote ourselves at some stage in this next era of success, and we'll be going all out in this next 5 games to continue to play some winning cricket. And I think the way we left the comp, with that last ball tie, is symptomatic, I think, of the way we want to play going forward. We don't want to fear losing. We don't fear losing, but we're going to go all out to try and put a balanced side on the park, and look to play some entertaining, attacking, winning cricket. So, again, like we talk about all the formats, I think the championship game is the grandmaster really, and of intrigue and ebbs and flows, and that game had it all. And I'm sure over the next 4 or 5 weeks we're going to see a lot more games like that, particularly as the pitches perhaps get a little bit more tired around the traps, and spinners come into their own maybe. It's going to be potentially hard work for the quicks over the next 2 rounds, with Kookaburra balls back in action as well. So, there's lots to get our heads around, and above all, there's lots for the players and coaches, but players mainly to adapt and adjust to, which I think is a really cool thing for the development of their game as well. So, rather than just players having that mentality of, well, sorry, coach, that's just the way I play. We especially talk about embracing conditions, respecting opposition, respecting the surface, and then play accordingly. And I think there's so many, we're starting to see in our team anyway, our squad, so many more skills coming out that perhaps the players didn't even realise they had. But we're just trying to give them some freedom to express themselves in different situations and apply their skills to different scenarios, and have no ceiling to how good they can be. And I think the players are really responding. There's a real joy in the dressing room in all formats. We've got 2 wonderful leaders in Kieran and Sam, and the players are in high spirits. So while we move to a different colour ball and a different format, I think we'll take a lot of confidence and a real vibe in that dressing room. We'll take that forward, I'm sure.
John, we're out of time, but I can't let you go without asking you about Ben Callaway, who bowls off spin and left arm spin and takes wickets. That's bonkers.
Yeah, magic, isn't it? Like I've never had anyone in my environment, playing or coaching, who's been able to do it. And Mark O'Leary, our spin coach, early in the season, when I first walked into the environment in February, he was really keen to, guide me over to the net and say, "Hey, have a look at this." And I guess, there was some hesitation from some quarters early on about whether we should be encouraging that, but thankfully I've managed to encourage, most of all Ben, but everyone else around to say, hey, this is a skill that could take young Ben to anywhere he wants to, because he's not only a wonderful bowler with both arms, he's a beautiful batsman and a gun fielder too. So, look, he's a young player on the rise, and we're hugely encouraging of him to to use his skills. And I went straight up to him after the win yesterday and said, "Hey, there was a golden opportunity for you to use the left arm again." He only used it for 2 balls yesterday, and we're still in that mode of encouraging him and allowing him that freedom to not worry about what could go wrong, but think about what could go right. And generally, when he's used the left arm option throughout the season, something's happened and it's created a wicket either for him or the other end. So yeah, it's an amazing skill that that he's just going to get better and better with.
Fantastic. Grant Bradburn, Glamorgan head coach. Good luck in the final at Trent Bridge against Somerset, and enjoy the rest of the season. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison. And a reminder, you can now watch us on YouTube. If you're not already doing that, just head over to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel and subscribe. Let's talk briefly about South Africa. The second Test match against the West Indies in Guyana was as entertaining as the first one was dull in Trinidad. Amazing. Both teams confessed that they were totally caught off guard. In first-class cricket, the Providence Stadium had barely given up a scoring rate of 2.8 and over. Yet the groundsman flummoxed everybody by leaving grass on the pitch. There was some brilliant fast bowling from both sides, and also some excellent spin bowling as well. I mean, really, really fast-moving, exciting Test match, which finished at the end of day 3, and South Africa win the series. So Shukri Conrad, the South African Test coach, was full of praise. He said it was a cracking Test match as well, and he paid tribute to Keshav Maharaj, the left-arm spinner, becoming South Africa's most successful spinner, taking over from Hugh Tayfield, who took 170 wickets in the 1960s, and he is no longer top of the pile. Here's Conrad on Maharaj.
It's well documented, and it's pretty obvious that we're a team in transition. And for you to transition successfully, you still need some experienced hands that are performing at the peak of their powers, And I speak of someone like Keshav and KG, especially in the bowling department. Kesh is an absolute workhorse, an absolute professional, and he just keeps going, And it's thrilled. I'm thrilled that he now holds that record. I think it's richly deserved. And yeah, he's great in the change room. He's a great sounding board for players and coaches. And yeah, really good team guy, and someone that you can easily dub Mr. Reliable, and that's someone, like I say, when you're transitioning, you need people like that in your team. And yeah, great for Kesh, and yeah, long may that success with the ball continue, and maybe add a few runs in the process as well.
Shukri Conrad paying tribute to Keshav Maharaj. Not sure how much you saw of the game, Harmy, but Kagiso Rabada was brilliant again. I mean, he took 8 wickets in the 2 Test matches, left on 299. So if he goes to Bangladesh, he'll become the 6th South African to take 300 Test wickets. But it was a good game.
Yeah, good game. I watched a little bit of it. You tend to switch on when you've got a little bit of a connection, I know, that are playing in. I switched on when David Bedingham was. I tried to watch it when Bedingham was batting. Obviously, Durham connection. Didn't get any in the second innings. Got a few in the first innings. So it was a good game. I thought the West Indies bowled nicely. I thought both teams bowled beautifully. You give a good, a pitch where you give a contest bat and ball. I think it was probably ball dominated, but it was still works out for a good Test match. And every time I hear the name Kagiso Rabada, I go, you know what? The biggest disappointment about Test match cricket and the way it's going at this minute in time is that this lad is not going to get a chance to get 500-600 Test match wickets, because he is, along with Jasprit Bumrah, Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad, probably the generation before, even the generation before that, to be fair, the two of them. But I look at the likes of Pat Cummins, Kagiso Rabada and Jasprit Bumrah and go, wow, these three bowlers who are unbelievably talented in all formats of the game. And it's just a shame that South Africa aren't going to play the volume of Test matches, because if somebody is good enough, and people say, I should have getting 400 Test wickets, should have getting 500 Test wickets. I think when Kagiso Rabada finishes, I don't think it's going to be his fault that he doesn't get 500 Test wickets. I think it's a system's fault in the way Test match cricket's gone, because he is a bowler of 500, 600 Test match wickets quality. And it's a shame. He's on 299. He's going to probably get 300, close to 400 by the time he's finished. But it's always sad when I hear his name, because I always think, the way the system's going, not many Test matches. This lad's the one that's going to sort of miss out or lose out on the sort of career numbers that he probably deserves. Because you're remembered you've been around cricket for many years. You're remembered on your Test match numbers. You never introduced as Steve Harmison played 53 ODIs. You're remembered as somebody who's got 226 Test match wickets. You've got somebody, all the stats going forward when you're finished and retired. It's how many Test matches you've played, how many Test match wickets or runs you've got. Rabada could have about 350, 380, but he is so good. He is really, really good.
He needs 124 to join Dale Steyn at the top of the South African list, and I reckon it could take him 5 years if South Africa plays 6 Test matches a year. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, the two teams now play 3 T20s, which they're both doing their very, very best to talk up. Darren Sammy, the coach, said that it should be an exciting and important series. Well, it might be exciting, Darren, but nothing on earth will make it important. Maybe ticket sales. But the West Indies have rested Jason Holder and Alzari Joseph. Fair enough. Alzari Joseph just played 3 Test matches against England. Jason Holder's played 5 back-to-back Test matches. If ever a man deserved a rest. But Andre Russell, Harmy, has been rested. He's been rested. That's what the West Indies Cricket Board said. Andre Russell's been rested. From what?
Yeah.
What has he been rested from? No, Andre Russell said, no, I don't fancy a game. That's what happened.
No, Andre Russell is in London thinking, I'm really enjoying myself at this minute in time. The 100 has paid money to do, whatever job they've needed me to do. I've tried my best. He hasn't bowled that much. His team, just flatlined. The London Spirit were poor in the tournament. I think that tells you everything about the West Indies' problems, is that you've got a player. I'm only speculating here, and no malice towards Andre Russell whatsoever, but it wouldn't surprise me if Andre Russell's gone, I don't fancy going back. I'm really enjoying myself in London at this minute in time and got a few quid in my pocket, so I'm going to stay here rather than go and play South Africa in a couple of T20s. I don't fancy that, that transatlantic flight. I might be quite happy just sitting in Covent Garden and enjoying my time in London. That's what it smells of. It really does. Unfortunately, my old mate, and I love him to bits, Johnny Graves, I think he's done a fantastic job in West Indies cricket, but he's now leaving, and I'm sure these situations and these scenarios that have cropped up over the course of how long's Johnny been doing it? Quite a few years now. I think he'd be quite happy that he can leave that and the interim of somebody else coming in as the CEO of the West Indies Cricket Board, because Jason Holder, for me, is one of my favourite cricketers of all time coming from that region, because he's always put himself in a position to play, even coming over here and playing county cricket before the Test match series. You know, there's times he's been off, but the majority of the time he fronts up for the West Indies, whether it's red ball or white ball. Alzari Joseph the same. There's one or two others, bigger characters that I think could stand up for the West Indies, especially from a commercial point of view. And we don't know what's happened with Andre Russell, but I'm going to speculate that he's quite enjoying his time in London.
Exactly right. Johnny Graves spent 9 years at the PCA before he took on the West Indies job. That was in 2016.
And did a good job at that as well.
Yeah. I mean, so he's done 7.5, 8 years at the West Indies Cricket Board. I will always remember him for being one of the few people in a prominent position to have the courage to stand up to the big three.
Yeah.
And he said a year ago that the ICC's financial distribution model was completely broken. And he's just had enough, you know. He oversaw 3 World Cups in the Caribbean, did a fabulous job, but constantly penny pinching, scrimping and saving, not having the funds that he needed to do the job effectively. And he's decided that he's left with in a blaze of dignity, frankly. You know, he said that time for him and his family to move on and seek different challenges. So we wish him all the very, very best. I'm sure he'll be very good. Hopefully he stays in cricket, to be honest. Anyway, moving on to other bits and news, bits and pieces. Harmy, the MCG set to host a one-off Test match between England and Australia in 2027 to mark 150 years of Test cricket. Devon Conway, we seem to be doing a New Zealand cricketer opts out of central contract story every week now. Basically, he's opted to take something called a casual contract. It basically means he's going to play every game for New Zealand, apart from the SA20, when it clashes with the SA20, which is 6 white ball games against Sri Lanka. So, you know, I mean, is it even news anymore? It's like Devon Conway says to New Zealand cricket, I'm very, very keen to play everything, but it's just that the SA20 have offered me $250,000. Do you mind if I play that? And New Zealand cricketer said, "Whoa, you go ahead."
Yeah, you go ahead. I'm surprised New Zealand are even having contracts now. I mean, they don't really need them, do they? I mean, and I mean that with all great respect, because if you're not going to contract, you're not going to have any sort of power and say over your big players. I mean, the message filters down, and so I would imagine if I was in the hierarchy of the New Zealand sort of cricket association, I'd be looking at ways of redoing the agreements, whether it is a contract. That casual contract sounds the perfect thing for somebody like Devon Conway. I know Finn Allen is another one that's he's pulled out of one, but I mean he's just a white ball player only, really. He doesn't play a great deal of red ball cricket, but I think the New Zealand have always been good with their players to make sure they maximise all their earning potential. So it doesn't surprise me, but I think I'd be looking at ways of making sure that the younger ones coming through are looked after in such a way that we can keep developing them and not letting our big players, turn their backs. I don't think any of them are turning their backs, but it just seems that a contract's not worth the paper it's written on over in that part of the world. And I think they might have to, redo the agreement in such a way where it works for all parties, which I think it does anyway. But when you say, he's centrally contracted and then he misses games, then that's not really a central contract.
Absolutely. ECB and Cricket Scotland in talks over forming a Team GB for the 2028 Olympics. Just in case you've been on a nuclear submarine for 3 years and have missed the news that cricket will be returning to the Olympics in 2028 in Los Angeles, having last featured when, Harmy?
Oh, that would have been
1904, I think, wasn't it?
I was going to say that would have been the early 1900s, wasn't it? Was that before the First World War?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was. And only 3 teams participated, including France. Amazing story.
They've kicked on as well, isn't it? You know, the First World War had an adverse effect on the game of cricket in France. So yeah, I mean, it's great that they're going to the Olympics. It'd be amazing to see who the coach would be. Would it be Brendan McCullum, a Kiwi coaching the Great British National, the GB team? Will it be Andrew Flintoff? Will he still be England white ball coach when 2028 comes around? Will Rob Key still be involved in English cricket in that time? Will it be? Do you know what, man? As I watch the Olympics, there are times in our sports I just look and think that shouldn't be in the Olympics. I'm not saying cricket shouldn't be in the Olympics, it should be, but I'm not sure it should be played by professionals. I'm the same with golf. I mean, if you have these sports, football, it should be played by amateurs. And does that devalue what the Olympics is, or are we putting the best spectacle out there? I don't know. I'm just not. I look at golf and think, well, that should be in the Olympics, yes, but should it be like the World Cup? Should it be the amateurs that are playing it and not the professionals? So it'll be interesting to see what the England team looks like, who coaches it, and who is the hierarchy of pulling it all together, because there's some good players in that Scotland side, there's some good players in that Ireland side, but will there, which island gets represented? Because I know Ireland represent themselves. I think Southern Ireland represent themselves, but whether it's classed as the whole of Ireland and they've got their own team in it, I'm not sure what the logistics on that one is. You might know more.
There's talk of there being either 8 or 12 teams in the Olympics, and they haven't decided on the format yet and the qualification process. That'll be very interesting to see how that's resolved. Anyway, Harmy, we've reached that time of the week that everyone looks forward to. It's the final word, and I think we've got one each, haven't we? I'll go first. The excellent Nathan Johns, Irish journalist, writes for the Irish Times, friend of this programme. He's been on many times, wrote that the Irish government has finally stepped up and recognised cricket's financial value and indeed financial problems in the country, and they've agreed to fund the building of a permanent 5,000-seater stadium. Finally, Cricket Ireland are hosting teams in the UAE. They're playing South Africa in Sharjah next month because they don't have enough money to host games at home. But the building of a permanent 5,000-seater cricket stadium just outside Dublin, and that'll be ready to host matches in the 2030 T20 World Cup in the UK and Ireland. So hurrah, we'll all have a Guinness on that one. That's my final word. What's yours?
Yeah, I love that one. I really do. I think that is a great final word, because I think it's a brilliant statement for cricket in this region that Ireland is going to get not only their test status, but their chance to host big teams in their own home venue. My final word is Moeen Ali said during the week, if we had an injury, we might got a certain 42-year-old out of retirement to come and play in the 100, and that's Jimmy Anderson. And I'm sure Jimmy Anderson's looking at the 100 organisers while he's doing the sort of media rounds and going, you keep that logo on that ball next year and the double lacquer and the bigger seam, and I reckon I can get a 4-year contract, because honestly, he could play at least 50. I mean, Jimmy could, the balls where they were hooping around and doing it. So the talk of Anderson coming out of retirement to play in the 100, I think would have been quite funny and quite comical last year or the year before. But seeing the way they've sort of marketed these sort of cheaper cricket balls that you used to get from Woolworths, where you get a stumps and a set of bails and a little bat with a rock hard cricket ball, which lasted for like 50 years. Jimmy Anderson's now licking his lips thinking, I'm not going back to play for Lancashire in 48 games. There's no point. I can bowl 20 balls and hoop it round corners at the start of a game. Nobody will hit me with one of these things. So I think there's mileage in Jimmy Anderson left yet. So watch this space on that one.
He was even talking about other franchise companies.
He was, yeah. If they keep using these chip shot balls, then definitely you'll be playing with it.
You've been listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. We'll be back at the same time next week to look back at the first test between England and Sri Lanka. But don't forget, every day of the test we'll bring you a daily Following On podcast, so do look out for those. But for now, once again, thanks for listening to Following On.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.